All right, guys, we are starting the winterization process. Today, we're spending time doing some business development stuff, waiting for the team to get back from some jobs. And in the meantime, let's walk around, let's talk, because I have some really important things that I think we need to discuss coming into the last quarter of the year. And here on the VIP Financial Education YouTube channel, I want to help you navigate your finances so that you can build a lasting wealth. And today, we're going to dive into a topic that's more important than ever. George, my rooster, agrees. And that is the current truth behind the state of the American economy, and really why now is not the time to be too proud or too concerned about impressing anybody else. So we're going to discuss why survival and preparation should really be your top priorities, and how you can position yourself to thrive when the economy gets worse and the opportunities arise for those that are ready. So there's no sugarcoating this, guys. The economy is concerning, and we're seeing rising inflation, we're seeing higher rates, we're seeing stagnant wage growth, and many people are just struggling to make ends meet right now. So it's clear that things are worse now than they've been, and will probably get worse before they get better. But a lot of times that means there's more opportunities for people who are prepared. So in today's message, this is all about timing, humility, and strategy. And it's not the time right now to be focused on looking good or keeping up with appearances. Now is the time to get real about your financial situation. You gotta focus on what really matters and position yourself to not just survive, but to literally thrive in the coming months and years. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So let's start with the reality of the current economy, because the last few years have been filled with economic volatility. And that means that many of the trends that we're seeing today, they're worrying for the average American household. And the first is inflation, that rising cost of living. One of the biggest challenges that we are facing right now is inflation, and that's the prices are rising for all these everyday goods like food, gas, housing, healthcare, and of course, almost everything else. In fact, according to recent data, inflation has really hit some of the highest levels in decades, while, as we all know, wages have only increased slightly, and they just simply haven't kept up with the rising cost of living. And that leaves a lot of people feeling very, very squeezed. When your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to, it becomes harder to save. You certainly have a much tougher time investing if you're able at all. And it's even tough to cover basic expenses. And unfortunately, we just don't have control over inflation at all, but we do have control over how we respond to it. The second part of the economy is the higher interest rates, and this is in response to inflation. The Federal Reserve has raised interest rates multiple times, and while this helps slow inflation, it also makes borrowing money more expensive. We've seen rates dip recently, which I'll talk about in another video, but right now credit card interest rates are higher, mortgage rates have risen, and financing large purchases is more costly than it was just 1 year ago. And this has a significant impact on people's ability to afford housing, an impact on your ability to afford automobiles and transportation, or even just pay down your existing debt. The third factor in the economy right now is the stagnant wage growth. And while costs continue to just keep going up and up and up, wage growth is continuing to lag behind. And even though more people are working and unemployment rates are low, the income gains that many workers have seen just simply aren't enough to cover the increased cost of living. And that means less money left over for savings, for investing, and for future planning. I, for one, in my plumbing company, which is Small Town Drain, we make a major effort to spend every dollar we can of profits towards our team. And there hasn't been a single person on our team this year that hasn't seen at least a 20% growth in their wages as long as they've been with us for a year. Now, economic uncertainty, guys, is everywhere. It's in the air. And whether it's fears of a recession, or it's concerns about the housing market, or it's instability of the stock market, people are just on edge right now, and many businesses are hesitant to invest, and consumers are becoming more cautious about spending their money. And you can probably relate, I know I can, and this is really where you need to be thinking strategically, because when uncertainty looms, there are many opportunities that can arise for those that are prepared and that are positioned to take advantage of it. I've been doing that over the last couple of years, and I cannot enforce this strongly enough. I cannot stress how much it's important for you guys to constantly take the blinders off and be looking around and look for those opportunities. Now is just not the time to focus on looking successful or impressing your friends on social media, trying to show off luxury purchases or buy expensive vehicles. It's the time to be practical about your financial survival and to build resilience. And here's why. First, pride leads to poor financial decisions. Many people feel pressured right now more than ever prior to social media to maintain this certain lifestyle or this image, especially when they see others around them spending money on luxury items like vehicles or vacations. But trying to keep up with others, especially during tough economic times, can lead literally to financial ruin. And if you're financing a lifestyle that you can't afford, you are setting yourself up for a major crisis down the road. And the truth is, nobody else's opinion is going to matter. When it comes to your financial well-being, be willing to make sacrifices everywhere you can. Make adjustments, and you can thrive later. But key is survival during economic volatility. Secondly, you got to make sure you're focusing on liquidity and your cash flow. We talk about this all the time on the channel, and the key to surviving through economic times is having liquidity. That means cash available to you in order to cover your expenses, to take advantage of various opportunities, to deal with emergencies, etc. Right now, we're just seeing way too many people. I see them all the time when I'm coaching, that they get into trouble because they're asset rich but cash poor. And that means that they might own a home or a car, but they don't have enough cash to cover an emergency or an unexpected downturn. And a lot of these so-called assets that we're talking about don't make them any money either. You need to make sure that your finances are flexible enough to handle any challenges that come your way. And that means building or replenishing that emergency fund. Most people recommend 3 to 6 months of living expenses. You've got to cut unnecessary expenses out so that you can just start saving more to do that. And then you've got to avoid any new debt so that you can work to pay off high interest debts as quickly as possible. And liquidity will also put you in this position to capitalize on new opportunities. When the economy starts to dip and there's blood in the streets, that's when people really get rich. And I want you to be one of those folks. When assets like real estate or the stock market are undervalued during an economic downturn, like they were during the recession of 2008 and 9, those people that have liquidity, that have cash, can scoop those up at a discount and benefit when the market recovers. Knowing tons of people who were participating in the real estate market back then are absolutely wealthy for life at this point. I have countless friends that are sitting in that position that own dozens or even more than 100 properties that will never have to work another day in their life. A traditional work, obviously they're still putting efforts and time into continuing to improve their financial situation. They just like the game of it, but they don't have to work. It's a freedom of choice at that point. When markets dip or when people around you are panicking, that's really when the great opportunities for investment and growth start to pop up. Now think about the real estate crash in 2008. Those that were prepared, those were the ones that were able to buy homes and properties, and they were buying them at rock bottom prices. My friend Christian, he owns over 100 doors. He was buying properties in the Denver metro area for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And when those corrections and opportunities come, you can buy strong assets at that discounted price, but then you can take advantage of the opportunities only if you're not burdened by low cash flow or extreme debts. You've got to have access to reserves, and you've got to position yourself now when others are panicking. You've got to stay calm, you've got to be ready, and you've got to be able then to strike when the iron's hot. All right, let's talk for a minute about the trap of emotional spending. It's really important to avoid this. When times are tough, it's going to be easy to fall into that trap of spending money on things that make you feel better in order to maybe maintain appearances, or it's sort of that retail therapy. It's so easy to go online and just spend money now, but emotional spending is dangerous, especially during times of economic uncertainty. Instead of turning to spending for comfort, channel that energy into maybe financial discipline, maybe exercise and feeling better with your health, your energy. Just reevaluate your spending and cut back wherever possible. You've got to focus on long-term goals rather than short-term indulgences. Sacrifices now are going to pay off when the economy recovers and you're in a better position than those who overextended themselves. If you could go back 10 years and you knew then what you know now about what was going to happen with the economy, what would you have done differently? Wouldn't you have pinched every penny you possibly could have so that you could have been investing and taking advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime bull market? So if the market comes down, eventually it will come back up. And you've got to be somebody that has access to the resources in order to benefit from that. So let's talk about positioning yourself, how to survive and thrive, because the key here is taking practical steps that are realistic for you, steps that don't feel like you're giving up absolutely everything in order to get ahead. First and foremost, you've got to prioritize paying down high interest debts. Carrying high interest debts like credit card balances, they can quickly drain that cash flow we talked about. So you've got to make it a priority to pay off those high interest debts as quickly as possible in order to free up more money for saving and investing. And that'll usually come well before the investing part of the equation. And that's because most of the time, people who are investing are going to consider anything between maybe that 7 to 15% return on their money to be a quality return. And that is something that's worth consideration. You weigh the risks, you weigh the rewards, but that type of ROI is certainly falling within the average of what the stock market has done historically. And if your interest rates on your high interest credit card balances are sitting closer to 25 or even 30%, it makes sense to pay off that 30% before worrying about investing to earn 10. Okay. You've got to also secondly build a cash buffer. And we mentioned this a little earlier in the video. You've got to have that emergency fund. You've got to have access to capital. And that's crucial. If you don't already have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved somewhere, start working towards that right now. Having cash on hand is going to give you peace of mind. It's going to allow you to weather any financial storms that come your way. And you've got to look for ways to increase your income as a third step. In economic times of uncertainty, multiple streams of income can provide extra financial security, whether it's a side hustle, maybe freelance work, building passive income streams through investments. Having more income is going to give you more options, and you may be able to then start focusing on upgrading your skills and your knowledge and then increasing your earning potential through your job or your field now as well. And that's really important too. Make yourself so valuable that you deserve more revenue doing what you're already doing. Number 4 is you've got to then start investing for the long term. If you're in a solid financial position with your emergency fund in place and you've got that cash flow, your debts are paid down or off, now you've got to be looking for that investment opportunity or array of investment opportunities. While others may be afraid to invest during economic downturns, the truth really is that some of the best opportunities arise when the market is down. So make sure you're looking for maybe undervalued stocks or sectors that are likely to rebound in the future, maybe real estate opportunities as well, particularly if housing prices decline. Alternative investments can offer a lot of growth potential as well. I'm actually strolling along over here on a part of my property where you can see a lot of my drain company equipment. We've got some excavators and skid steers and trucks and box trucks and trailers. And most of the vehicles are out in the field today, but this was something I never planned on being involved with. And this generates an extra $85,000 a year for me. And, I have a team that I delegate to and a partner that is in control of the operational side. And I help with the business development side and the marketing and the finance kind of CFO role. Here behind me as well, you can see another part of my property here where there's a couple of recreational vehicles, and those RVs actually generate for me another $325 per week. And that's not something I really want to be doing. I love the privacy of this property. It's one of the main reasons I purchased it, but I'm willing to make the sacrifice to generate that $1,400 a month. So I give up a little privacy and they pay over half of my mortgage payment on this home. Now that was an alternative to what I originally was doing with this house. If you've been following the channel, you may remember that this, for 4 seasons, was a short-term rental. And I would market this property and it did pretty well. It generated almost $250,000 in revenues renting it out 4 or 5 months of the year. Then I would get to use it myself 7 or 8 months of the year. And that was a lifestyle asset that I just really, really enjoyed. But I decided I wanted to be here full time. I mean, this is absolutely paradise out here. And therefore, it was really something that I made the decision that I wanted to kind of reclaim. So I had to look for other ways of generating revenue. And that's what we're talking about here, guys, is making sacrifices you don't necessarily want to, while simultaneously looking for creative ways that you wouldn't necessarily consider. I never expected I was going to be in the number 2 world, if you know what I'm saying. I would have laughed at you 4 years ago if you suggested that this was going to be a business I would be in. And now we're building that business up. It's on pace to generate $1.5 million this year. And that's only 3.5 years in. Like I said, my business partner and I take away about $85,000 per year each. That's still leaving about $50,000 a month in net cash flow that we use to accelerate the debt payoff on items that we financed. Again, that's taking the blinders off, not staying so laser focused on things that I consider to be my own lane, and being willing to consider other opportunities that are out there. And really it boiled down to realizing that everybody has to use the bathroom, and it's a recession-proof opportunity. It is an urgent opportunity. People have to take care of things if they're having a sewage nightmare. And so those factors really played a role in my decision to get involved. But the key is really making sure that you stay humble. You've got to stay focused on your goals. The most important thing that you can do right now is focus on your financial objectives. Don't worry about keeping up with others. Don't try to impress anybody else. Instead, just concentrate on building a financial fortress that's going to allow you to thrive when other people are struggling. And that might mean driving the same car for a few years longer, maybe selling your current vehicle and buying something less expensive, or cutting back on dining out, or delaying any other luxury purchases. Maybe you're not traveling as often as you want to, maybe not at all for a few years, but the long-term rewards are worth it. And remember, the people who succeed during tough times are going to be the people that are prepared, not those that look like they have it all together on the surface or on the internet. Essentially, you just have to position yourself to thrive when the economy is getting tough. And the truth is that we're in for some challenging times, but challenges bring opportunities. So now's not the time to be too proud or to care what anybody else is thinking. Focus on survival and positioning yourself for success. And so that's going to be doing it for today's video discussion about the current state of the economy and how you can protect yourself, how you can survive, and how you can even thrive when things get tough. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out all of our other videos. They'll help you get started on how you can accelerate the elimination of all of your debt, including your mortgages, and share it with anybody else that you think might need to hear it. As always, leave your questions and comments. I love reading them. I love hearing from you, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one of them. Until I see you on the next video, guys, make it a great day today and keep on cash flowing. Take care.